Hi folks, Pete Addy Mini Volume here. Wanted to make a quick video about today's action, the morning trade plan, and how the pieces of the puzzle fit together. It's important that you formulate your trade plan before the market opens so you have some type of idea of what you're looking for, how you want it to play out, etc. And then once the market is open, you can decide which part of your trade plan is in play and why. That will help you come up with higher probability trades, keep you calm while you're in the trade, disciplined while you're looking for the trade. So let's just get into it right off the bat. So here is the trade plan from this morning. Now you can see that I was entering the day with a bias of neutral long. So I wasn't expecting a big move, but I was giving a little bit of an edge to the longs with a primary bias of neutral. So now what did I want to see for the highest odds that the buyers would stay in control? Well, I wanted to see the lower IZ, which stands for inflection zone, from scenario 1, so that would be this level right here. I wanted to see those hold, or best case scenario, not even trade. So this was our scenarios from this morning. What we were looking for, very specific on how we wanted the day to turn out before we were willing to actually put on risk and validate our read of the markets. So now let's look at what we had. What we had was a news announcement just before the RTH Open. And that announcement was the US and China were going to resume trade talks. Well, that was definitely, if you look back through the Twitter feed, that was definitely a sit on hands open, because it was just slightly before the RTH Open, and wanted to see how the market interpreted that news. Because we don't want to interpret the news. It's important that we interpret the interpretation of the market. The market is what matters. That's the opinion that matters. Ours doesn't. So enough of that, and let's move into the charts. So what did we have? We had an open with a test up, failure. So we had failure. We had the ETH high right up in here. So it failed to tag the ETH high, came down, actually broke the open, and made a new low in A period. So we'd broken the opening range low, broken down, then we came up. Now, this is still a sit on hand. This still isn't enough information. So now what we have is we have a breakdown, and we have a low, a new low in B period. So now we have some information to work with. So what we would expect to see is a move up with continuation down. This was the expected move. Well, what happened? That's not what happened. Instead, we moved up, we balanced, and then we broke out and we moved up again. Well, now we have enough information that we really can feel good about our read of the market. Our bias from the open, neutral long, is validated now. Now we have validation. We failed to get extension. This failed to trade. So now this gives scenario 2 a possibility. So now what we want to see is a trade. We want to see some type of setup. And what I've done is I have taken a few shots from Twitter, from my public Twitter feed this morning. As you can see, at 9:15, I tweeted, opening bias of neutral long hasn't changed. The IB ranges are intact, all markets. Starting to look, but I'm going to be very picky. If I miss it, I miss it. So what this means is I didn't have an exceptionally strong bias, but the trade plan bias was being validated, and it was long, because the lower IZ did not even trade, We failed to get the extension. We moved back up. We all know what we saw that. So now we have the information we were looking for. And the next tweet that I put out was exactly what I was looking for. So now we have this tweet. Now, as anyone knows that follows me, I trade the ES and the YM. Well, in my opinion, the YM was a little prettier. The structure was just a little nicer, and I thought the risk reward on the trade was a little better. So I tweeted, the YM battle zone has my attention. And I tweeted that at 9:17. So now let's take a look at the charts themselves. So what did we have off the open? We had the trade news between US and China, approximately in here just before the open, came up, created an ETH high. We popped up, popped down. Now we've got the information we need. And this circle here denotes the time of the tweets that I just showed you. This is when I said the bias is still intact and where I was looking. I was looking for the YM battle zone. If anybody's followed me for a while, then you know what that is. And anywhere from the top of this zone to the bottom of this zone is a valid entry area with your stop just beyond the zone. So in my opinion, a 25,370 stop was all you needed for this trade, because what you didn't want to do is you didn't want price to rip through here. That would have been a warning sign that we had sellers active and buyers were failing. So now what did we have? We had a tweet announcing what I wanted. Bias was strong. At this point in time, it was validated, so it's becoming stronger. Now we're looking for higher targets. Now all we got to do is identify our risk, look for an entry. Well, in the ES, the entry was anywhere from here down into here. So personally, I would have wanted the entry down into 12, maybe 11.5 for the ES, given this context. And so the entry could have been anywhere from 15 to 13.5. Well, that still was a little more risk than the YM. The YM, with an entry anywhere from 90 to, was it 78, with a stop at 70, gave a very nice risk, because your first area of what you needed to see happen is you needed to see the IB highs break. This was your first area that could have been a problem. So this is where you wanted to determine the strength of your trade. If you scale out, which I do, then this was your area. This was your first scale out. So now we've got the trade. We've identified our risk. We've identified our entry area, and now all we're looking for is the entry. Well, we came down, we pushed up, we came down, we made an equal low, came right into it on the YM, just as beautiful as you want to see, just as the VWAP starting to curl up, had multiple areas of confluence here in the YM. Personally, I thought this was a better entry. So you've got your entry. Anywhere in here is just fine. You've got your scale out. This is where you're mitigating your risk. Now what you've got to do is manage the trade. And what we do have is we have a day with relative low volume. So we're in a low volume environment to begin with. And that was also mentioned this morning in a tweet about the relative volume. So we're not expecting a massive trend day. Also, we don't have anything that is telling us this is going to be a true trend day. So we're not expecting it, and that's not something we can't trade for the possible. We have to trade for the probable. So now we've got price coming up, and it came right into the S2 initial target. Well, at the same time, the YM was coming up, and it came up into here. Well, this is where you can use both the ES and the YM to trade each other. Now, could the YM go up into the S1 or S2 initial target? Of course it could, but it's a low probability. The YM typically has lower volatility than the ES. So given that, if you're going to trade in a low volatility environment, frequently you're going to be using the ES to manage an manage a YM trade. This is something, the intermarket analysis, that you'll learn over time. So now, why was the S2 initial target a good exit? Now, could it go higher? Could this shoot up? Of course it could. Absolutely. But why was this a good target? So what I've done in these lower panes is I have the ADS-PD and I have the ADD. So what we have is we have extension up on the ADD, which tells us that the market as a whole is relatively strong. So it did come up into the 1250 area. In fact, we have a high of the ADD of 1254 for the day. That's nice. That's a nice broad-based move in the market. However, we're trading the ES, so we have to keep an eye on the ADS-PD. So now, what is this pivot here? That's this pivot. So now what we have is we have divergence. We have price coming up here, and we have the ES. Oh, I can't draw a straight line. Basically flatlining. So if I took my cursor and let's see, what's the high on this? The high is 257. We're currently at 266, 264. That is not something that is confirming that move. So this is telling us that this move up from here to here is narrow based in this index. Now, if you want to understand why the ADD did what it did, then I would suggest you go look at the ADRLD. I'll let you do that on your own. So this was a fairly good trade. I think the risk reward warranted it. The structure warranted it. The read of the action combined with the trade plan warranted it. It's a trade that I think should be taken just about every time, unless there is just something that is very obvious that says don't take it. I think this is a very solid trade to take every single time. So I hope that helped. And on another note, just some minor housekeeping. Jason at Team Day Trader and I will be posting in a private Twitter account starting tomorrow. It's for subscribers. We would love to have you join us if you think that is something that you would find of value. If not, then I hope you're trading very well, and I wish you nothing but the best. And we will see you on the public Twitter feed occasionally, but not quite as often as we are now. So I hope everyone is well, and have a great day, and thank you.